Hello and welcome to The Sixth Sense. We're going to review the questions at the end of chapter 29, beginning with question 7 on page 915. 7a, what is the Peace Corps? The Peace Corps was an American program that sent volunteers to help developing countries with projects such as digging wells and building schools. 7b, describe the sequence of events that led to American astronauts landing on the moon in 1969. Well, in 1961, in April of 1961, the Soviet Union orbited a man around the Earth. His name was Yuri Gagarin. That May, the following month, JFK, the president, asked Congress to, or challenged Congress, really spoke to them about putting a man on the moon. In May of 1961, Alan Shepard went into space. In 62, John Glenn orbited the Earth. And then in 1967, we had a tragedy. In 1967, the Apollo astronauts died in a pre-launch fire. But just a couple years later, in 1969, American astronauts land on the moon. 7C, how do you think the Cuban Missile Crisis would have ended had the U.S. pursued airstrikes or an invasion of Cuba? I think it would have ended badly if we'd used our military strength. Probably would have set off another war, which would have included battles inside the United States. Right? That would have been weird. So I'm really glad we didn't do that. 8A, what is guerrilla warfare? Remember, guerrilla warfare is a strategy. It's a tactic. Guerra, meaning war. Iya, meaning little. So guerrilla. It's like a little war, little tiny war. So it's fighting in very small groups and ambushing your targets, setting traps for your targets using landmines and that sort of thing. Quick attacks with small groups, and then you retreat. 8B, how did the American military try to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trail? By airstrikes, right? We delivered bombs and napalm, which burned up all the vegetation, and Agent Orange, which killed vegetation in an attempt to disrupt their supply line, because the Ho Chi Minh was their main supply line. 8C, do you think American opinions about the war would have been different had there been no television coverage? Certainly. There's no doubt about it. The videos of conflict and war, not to mention the death toll number that Americans were reminded of daily, had a devastating effect on people's opinion of what we were doing, and definitely helped the anti-war sentiments grow stronger. 9A, what was the War Powers Act? The 1973 act of Congress that required the president to get congressional approval before sending troops into any sort of conflict. 9B, what was Henry Kissinger's role in the Vietnam War? Remember, he was Nixon's national security advisor. He went to Paris to help iron out the peace talks between the North Vietnamese, South Vietnamese, and the Viet Cong, what they call the Paris Peace Accords. 9C, what long-term effects did the Vietnam War have on the United States? Well, 58,000 Americans were killed, 300,000 Americans were wounded. None of the Vietnam veterans returned to anything like a hero's welcome. Life was very difficult for them. They also suffered from long-term effects, not only physical effects from war, but also mental effects such as post-traumatic stress disorder. In a related but not similar effect, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese people fled Vietnam, many of whom ended up in the United States as immigrants. 10 and 11 are basically the same question, right? Had a very astute student point that out to me earlier today. So I'm just going to blend both answers into one. The questions are, how did the geography of Vietnam help the Viet Cong? Question 11, how did the geography of Vietnam affect American forces? So obviously the Viet Cong know the lay of the land very well. They know the physical geography, and that allowed them to implement their strategy of guerrilla warfare, right? They knew all the good hiding spots. They knew how to get from point A to point B without being seen. So it all played into their strategy. The U.S. troops, on the other hand, had to carry all their supplies everywhere they went. They had to chop their way through dense vegetation, and it pretty much rained 24/7. So a lot of challenges faced by the American troops in Vietnam. So that's a wrap for the review of Chapter 29. Remember that you can rewind any part of this episode that you need to watch again. If you have any questions, make sure you jot them down or type them in the top of your document so that we can go over those the next time we see each other. All right? Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.